If you feel your heart start to race the second you have to speak up, if you replay a conversation for hours, cringing at one tiny thing you said, if you've ever stayed quiet in a group because you were terrified of saying the wrong thing, if you feel a hot wave of panic when you realize all eyes are on you, then you are living with a glitch in your operating system. That entire experience, the heat, the panic, the urge to disappear, is not a reflection of reality. It's a chemical false alarm. Your body is being tricked into a fight or flight response by a single broken belief, the belief that you are constantly being watched and judged. But that belief is a lie, and once you see the lie, you can stop obeying the alarm. Listen, nobody cares. Let me repeat that because you need to feel it in your bones. No one is giving you the manic hypercritical attention that you are giving yourself. Your embarrassment is built entirely on the illusion that you are standing alone on a massive stage under a blinding spotlight with a stadium full of harsh critics ready to pounce on every stumble, every misspoken word, every tiny flaw. That audience does not exist. Your embarrassment is the symptom of an extreme form of negative egocentrism. You are so hyper focused on how you might be perceived that you are completely ignoring the real world, a world full of people who are far too consumed by their own perceived flaws, their own anxieties, and their own lives to even notice your so called micro mistake. You are allowing a judgment that does not exist to hold your entire life hostage, and the price you are paying for this obsession is your personal freedom. It has stopped you from speaking up, from asking for what you want, from taking the risks that could define your life. It has forced you to stay small, all out of fear of a shadow. But what if I told you the key to unlocking everything isn't about mastering more courage, but about cultivating a powerful strategic detachment? The people who move through the world with authentic power and freedom, the real leaders, the innovators, the true difference makers, they haven't eliminated mistakes from their life. They have eliminated the importance they assign to those mistakes in the eyes of others. They have deactivated their cringe detector by fully accepting one uncomfortable yet profoundly liberating truth. A moment of awkwardness is not a catastrophic event. In this video, we are going to systematically dismantle the scientific and social proof of the everyone is looking at me syndrome. I will show you with cold, hard evidence why your mistake today will be forgotten by everyone, including you, within 30 seconds. I will give you the exact mental shifts that the world's most impactful change makers used to operate in a near constant state of immunity to external judgment. If you are ready to stop being defined by the paranoia of judgment and to finally reclaim your sovereign right to act, to fail, and to grow in public view, then stay with me. But before I start, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. I haven't really been posting consistently lately, mostly because of exam season and just not having enough time. And I think one thing people don't really see is how much time actually goes into editing. Like, filming is one thing, but editing can literally take hours and hours. And when you're already busy, that's usually the first thing that makes you fall off. So instead of just disappearing completely, I wanted to actually fix that. I started being more intentional with how I use my time, and I began taking some classes on Skillshare to improve my workflow and just make everything more efficient. Right now, I'm taking a class called In-Depth CapCut Video Editing Masterclass by Editing, and it's been really helpful for simplifying my editing process. What I like is that it doesn't try to overcomplicate things. It focuses on having a clean workflow, organizing your footage properly, and just making the whole editing process faster and more consistent. Especially for talking videos like this, where editing can easily become repetitive and time consuming, having a system makes a huge difference. It kind of takes you out of that loop of overthinking every cut and helps you just move through the edit more efficiently. And more generally, that's what I like about Skillshare as a platform. It's not just about learning random things, it's about actually building skills you can apply right away. There are classes on editing, content creation, storytelling, and also completely different creative things if you want to explore something new. And everything is taught by real creatives, which makes makes it feel way more practical and human. Also, you can learn at your own pace, which is perfect if your schedule is a bit all over the place like mine has been recently. I feel like if you've been wanting to improve something or just use your time a bit better instead of just scrolling, Skillshare is actually a really good place to start. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Okay, so we start right now by exposing the grand lie. Why your perception of other people's attention is scientifically provably false. That feeling, you're convinced it's a signal of something real, something true, that you've made a fatal error in the social code, that every single person in that room has seen it, and that they are all right now judging you for it. I need you to understand something. This entire experience, this entire reality you are living in that moment, is a complete and total fabrication. It's your brain betraying you. It's called the spotlight illusion, and it is the root of your paralysis. Your mind, in its frantic state, makes a critical error. It assumes that the intense, magnified, obsessive attention you are giving to your own mistake is the same amount of attention the outside world is projecting back onto you. If your own internal critic is screaming at you for an hour, you are convinced the external audience is still whispering about it for 59 minutes. This calculation is wrong. Let's do something right now. Close your eyes. I want you to think of a specific person, a coworker, a friend. I want you to try and recall in perfect crystalline detail the last time they did something genuinely awkward. Not a big dramatic scene, just a simple human fumble, a trip over a curb, a joke that landed with a thud, a word they mispronounced during a meeting. Can you see it? Can you remember the exact sentence? The precise shade of red on their face? Of course you can't. You might have a vague, fuzzy memory that something happened, but the details are gone. They were never even properly recorded. And that right there, that blank space in your memory, is your freedom. That is the exact amount of mental real estate other people are dedicating to your embarrassing moments. Their internal hard drives are full. In a famous study, researchers made people wear deeply embarrassing t-shirts. They then asked them to estimate how many people in a room had noticed the shirt. The wearers were certain half the room was staring. The actual number was less than a quarter. You are performing a one-act play of humiliation for an audience that is barely watching, an audience that has already forgotten their lines. So, how did this happen? How did this faulty wiring get installed? From day one, the system graded you on your ability to avoid public mistakes. A wrong answer in class wasn't just incorrect, it was a social penalty. You were sold a myth of the flawless hero, the leader who never sweats, the genius who never fails. And then came social media, a 24/7 global gallery of everyone's final polished, airbrushed masterpieces. You are bombarded with the end results, never with the messy, awkward, cringe-filled process it took to get there. You internalized a single devastating command: perform perfectly or do not perform at all. And so you started to make deals with your own potential. You started trading your voice for silence, your ideas for safety, your presence for invisibility. Every single time you felt that initial spark of fear, the fear of the awkward moment, the potential for a cringe, and you pulled back, you reinforced the prison walls. Your brain celebrated. Crisis averted, we are safe. That immediate relief is a drug. It feels like a win. Actually, it's a surrender. Each avoidance is a brick laid in the wall around your life. You start choosing a smaller world, a quieter existence, a more confined version of yourself, all to avoid a temporary, fleeting sensation that, in the grand scheme of your life, means absolutely nothing. Listen, the enemy is not the feeling of embarrassment. The enemy is your reaction to the fear of that feeling. You've been running from a ghost. The moment you stop, the moment you stand your ground, let the wave of heat wash over you, feel the cringe completely, and do the thing anyway, that is the moment the chains shatter. You will discover the sensation has no teeth. It cannot bite you. It rises, it peaks, and it dissolves. And on the other side of it, it's your power, your voice, and a life that is no longer dictated by a phantom. All right, you get it now. You understand the spotlight is a lie. You know logically that people aren't staring, but the feeling is still there. That knot in your stomach hasn't magically vanished. So, what comes next? How do you cross the bridge from knowing the truth to actually living it? This is the mental upgrade that separates those who live on a limited plan from those who operate with full unrestricted access to their own lives. The secret of people with real impact, the creators, the leaders, the ones who magnetize rooms, is not an absence of fear. It's a radical understanding of how their own mental reality is constructed. They've hacked the operating system. Your external reality is a direct printout of your internal programming. When you make a mistake, the event itself is neutral, a blank state. It's a single data point. I said the wrong name. I tripped. I sent the email to the wrong person. That's it. That data point has no emotional charge. It's just a thing that happened. But then your internal software kicks in. It runs that neutral data through a filter built from every past time you were laughed at, every time you were told to be quiet, every time you felt rejection. The filter screams mistake equals social rejection, so we're in danger. And that is what creates the emotion, the cringe, the shame. You're not reacting to the event, you're reacting to the terrifying story your mind instantly writes about what the event means. The most powerful people on earth have simply become the programmers of that software. They understand that if they label the error a catastrophe, their body and mind will experience a catastrophe. But if they take that same exact error and label it data or a necessary step or even a funny story, the emotional charge evaporates. This is what it means to be the sovereign of your own mind. You are not a puppet jerked around by your feelings. You are the one who holds the label maker. That surge of adrenaline you feel, the rapid heartbeat, the quickened breath, your ego, your scared social self, interprets that as fear. Your new job is to relabel that fuel. That is not fear. That is pure, raw, and tapped energy. It is the exact same physiological response as excitement. It is fuel for action. The moment you look that feeling in the eye and say, this is my energy, this is my power, this is what action feels like, you disarm it, you take back control. So, why do these change makers seem immune to the paralysis of embarrassment? They have traded the exhausting pursuit of performance for an obsession with mission. Imagine you are at a networking event. Your old performance mindset would whisper, you need to sound smart, you need to be cool, you need to say the perfect thing so they like you, don't get rejected, don't be awkward. The result, you stand in the corner, perfectly performing the role of person on their phone, safe and invisible. The mission mindset operates on a completely different frequency. It says, my mission here is to make one genuine connection. That's it. To do that, I must take action. And taking action guarantees with 100% certainty that it will not be perfect. I will probably stumble over my words, the first person might be busy, my joke might not land. Did you catch that? It's not about the possibility of being awkward, it's about the certainty of being imperfect. And the leader embraces that certainty. The potential for a moment of cringe is just a line item, a marginal cost of doing the business of living a bold life. It's the price of admission for the real reward, the connection, the opportunity, the growth. They aren't focused on appearing, they are focused on doing. And when what you are doing becomes infinitely more important than how you are appearing, the external judgment of others fades into irrelevant background noise. This shift in focus gives you X-ray vision into the souls of everyone around you. The moment you stop projecting your own self-judgment onto them, your vision clears. You see with stunning clarity that most people are trapped in the exact same emotional prison you just walked out of. If you're terrified to start a conversation, the person across from you is likely terrified of being boring or of being left alone or of not knowing what to say. You are both hostages of the same spotlight illusion pointing fake guns at each other. This awareness gives you a kind of superhuman courage. You realize that by making the first awkward, clumsy move, you are not just freeing yourself, you are freeing them. You are demonstrating in real time that a moment of awkwardness is not fatal. You are giving them the subconscious permission to be imperfect too. Let's talk about how your fear of embarrassment actively sabotages your ability to be known and loved for who you truly are. I can't tell you how many of my closest friends have since confessed to me that when they first met me, their impression was that I was cold, aloof, or even a snob. The truth is, I was just paralyzed. I was so hyper focused on not making a mistake, on masking my insecurity, that my entire strategy of avoidance manifested as an impenetrable cold distance. My fear of looking too eager, too needy, too anything forced me to wear an armor that the world interpreted as arrogance. When you freeze to avoid embarrassment, you are not just sacrificing an action, you are actively sabotaging the world's ability to see the real you. You are broadcasting a signal that is the polar opposite of your true nature. You are sending out a version of yourself designed by a committee of your deepest fears. The ultimate freedom, the most radical act of self love, is to give people permission to see the real version, to let them see your clumsiness, your overexcitement, your bad jokes, your mistakes. That momentary insignificant cringe is the ridiculously small price you pay for the priceless reward of being truly, fully seen. Knowing the truth is one thing, living it is a whole different battle. This next part is where we move from theory to action. This is where we install the new operating system. This is your field manual for the exact moment you feel that familiar freeze setting in. This is your first and most powerful weapon. When the panic starts to rise, when your hand is hovering over the send button and you're about to delete the message, when you're about to swallow your words in a meeting, you stop time. You force your mind to answer this one brutal perspective shifting question. How much will this specific awkward moment actually matter in my life 30 days from now, 1 year from now? Your anxious mind is a master of the present instant. It magnifies everything. It takes a pebble and projects a mountain onto the movie screen of your reality. Your job is to pull back the camera. You have to extend the timeline. The overwhelming, liberating truth is this: your mistake has a microscopic half-life in the memory of others. People are drowning in their own internal drama, their bills, their relationships. They do not have the hard drive space to store high-definition video of your minor slip-up. You stutter during a presentation. Now, fast forward 1 year. Will your colleagues remember the exact sentence you fumble? Will they remember the specific shade of red on your face? Unlikely. You yourself will struggle to recall the precise details. It will have faded into a vague, oh yeah, I remember being nervous that one time. So you are sacrificing a real tangible action that could improve your life, such as asking the question, taking the initiative, sharing your idea, to avoid a memory that will be wiped from the mental cage of everyone involved, including you, in a matter of days. If the negative consequence literally vanishes into thin air within a month, then the fear of it right now is by definition irrelevant. It's a ghost. Stop letting a ghost dictate your movements. Embarrassment is a state of extreme, obsessive internal focus. It's a feedback loop from hell. The entire system is directed inward, monitoring every breath, every microexpression, every potential flaw. How do I look? Do I sound stupid? Are they noticing I'm nervous? The shift is the exact opposite. You must take your entire cognitive load and throw it outward, away from yourself and into the world. Stop performing and start participating. If you're in a conversation and you feel the self-consciousness creeping in, don't try to fight it by criticizing yourself. That's just more internal focus. Instead, you must become a detective of external data. Focus with all your might on the other person. What are the specific words they are choosing? What is the emotion behind their tone of voice? Watch their body language. Are their arms crossed? Are they leaning in? What color are their eyes truly? This switch is a biochemical hack. Your attention is a finite resource. When you pour 100% of it into processing the outside world, into deep listening, into environmental analysis, your brain is forced to downshift the activity in the regions linked to self-monitoring and judgment. You literally do not have the mental bandwidth left to cringe at yourself. Embarrassment starves to death because you have cut off its food supply, your self-obsession. The ultimate freedom is not about not making mistakes, it's about being so genuinely engaged with the reality in front of you that you don't even have the time to notice you made them. So much of the fear of embarrassment comes from a fundamental confusion between two very different things. Judgment, which is the ego attack, such as you are stupid, you are inadequate, you don't belong here. This is a global attack on your worth as a human being. It is vague, personal, and destructive. And criticism. This part of your proposal isn't clear. Next time, try structuring it this way. You use the wrong number in this calculation. This is specific, actionable feedback on a task, a behavior, or a performance. The most effective people have trained their minds to do one thing with ruthless efficiency. Welcome criticism as precious fuel for growth and dismiss judgment as meaningless, irrelevant noise. When you receive negative feedback, your mind's default is to jump straight to taking it as judgment. Your new protocol is to force a rational deconstruction. You pause and you ask, does this comment target my core value as a person, or does it target a specific changeable action or result? 99% of the time, it's the action. By learning to accept and even seek out criticism, you dismantle the fear of embarrassment at its core. You are no longer in the business of defending a fragile ego, you are in the business of optimizing your work and your life. You stop seeing feedback as a threat and start seeing it as a gift. We have to break the vicious cycle that has held you captive for so long. Avoidance strengthens the fear of embarrassment. We replace it with the courage equation. Imperfect courageous action equals nervous system reprogramming equals self-esteem equals reduced embarrassment. Your mind and body learn through experience. Theory is nice, but lived proof is everything. Every single time you take a small, imperfect, courageous action, you are sending an undeniable signal to your entire nervous system. I acted, the scary feeling was there, and the world did not end. I am still here. I'm in fact stronger for it. You don't need to jump out of a plane. You need to break the pattern with micro doses of voluntary awkwardness. For example, ask a store clerk a question you already know the answer to just to practice, or I don't know, speak in a meeting, voice a thought starting with this might be a silly question, purposely mispronounce a word slightly and just keep talking without correcting yourself. Each one of these tiny seemingly silly actions is a hammer blow to the prison wall. You are reprogramming your brain to associate action, even clumsy action, with success and survival. You are proving to the deepest, most primitive part of yourself that safety comes from moving forward, not from staying frozen. At its deepest root, the pain of embarrassment comes from an insane, impossible demand we place on ourselves. The demand for human perfection. We want to be flawless machines so that we are immune to criticism, so that we never feel the sting of exposure. We are fighting against our own biology. The final mental shift is both an act of surrender and an act of immense strength. It is the radical acceptance of your imperfect human nature. You must consciously, deliberately replace the old broken belief of I must be perfect to be loved and accepted with a new unshakable foundation. I am worthy and valid, including my flaws. My mistakes and awkward moments are not evidence of my inadequacy. They are necessary, non-negotiable parts of my learning process. They are the data points of a life being fully lived. When you stop fighting your own humanity, embarrassment loses its power to blackmail you. You have disarmed its own weapon, your own desire to be something other than human. So the next time you feel that heat of embarrassment, don't fight it, don't tense up, acknowledge it, feel it. This is your final layer of psychological armor against the catastrophe machine in your mind. Your anxious brain loves to project worst case scenarios. Your job is to force a return to logic and proportion. You must ask in a calm, analytical tone, as if you're a scientist assessing data, realistically, what is the absolute worst case, tangible, long lasting consequence of the situation? Let's break it down. You accidentally call your new boss by the wrong name. Anxious minds catastrophe will say, he'll think I'm disrespectful and incompetent. He'll never trust me again. This will ruin my chances of promotion. My career is over. The so what analysis is like, okay, so, what's the realistic worst case? He might be slightly annoyed for a moment. He might correct me. I will apologize. The conversation will continue. Will this be on my permanent record? No. Will it get me fired? Extremely unlikely. Will it affect my ability to do good work? No. The consequence is a moment of social discomfort. That's it. When you reduce the potential consequence down to its true, usually insignificant size, paralyzing power of embarrassment vanishes. Fear gives way to proportion. You are demonstrating to your emotional brain that its nuclear reaction is a massive overreaction to a firecracker. You are taking back control, one rational thought at a time. That's it. The playbook is yours. Now the work begins. Go be awkward. Go be powerful. If this hit home for you, follow me on Instagram, send me a DM and tell me the first small awkward thing you're going to do. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We're building a community here of people who are done playing small and you belong in it. Leave a comment below with the one situation you are officially taking back from embarrassment. Go get it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.